So, before we get into this week's Yugioh Vrains episode, I would like to take a few minutes to talk about the big thing that has all the comic book nerds shouting yes, and that is that Black Panther has become the first superhero movie to be nominated for Best Picture. Yay! Woohoo! Yeah! Go T'Challa! Wakanda forever! Yeah! Okay! Yeah! We did it! Woo! Okay, in all due seriousness for a minute, Black Panther's not winning Best Picture, guys. It's not. I know most people acknowledge this, but a lot of people are still thinking, oh my god, this could be it. This could be Best Picture of the Year. We, as the oppressed nerds, can feel vindicated. No. The Academy actually does this every now and again. They did it a few years back with Inception. I actually think, if I remember correctly, they also did it with Django Unchained. Basically, every couple of years they realize that the average everyday person doesn't care about all the World War II movies and old Hollywood movies and movies about white people thinking they can solve minority problem movies that the Academy cares about, so they find something that came out during the year that they actually were able to appreciate, and they put it here. That is what happened here. Now, don't get me wrong, I loved Black Panther. It's a fun movie, great performances across the board, I like the way its message is handled, but it is still a movie that appeals to things the Academy cares about, i.e. there is a race message, and that race message is conveyed in a way that I think everyone can understand and relate to. That, I think, is why the movie was ultimately picked. It's also cool that they picked the blackest superhero movie ever made. All that's awesome, but ultimately this was just a stunt. It's not going to win Best Picture. The fact that it couldn't pick up any other nominations in any of the other major categories, I actually almost care more about the technical categories than half of the main ones myself. But the fact that, like, they couldn't even give Michael B. Jordan a Best Supporting Actor nomination, which in my opinion he deserves, just the nomination, I don't think he would necessarily win, I think says that this was just throwing the general public a bone. Remember, Black Panther was the movie in the main conversation when the Oscars wanted to make a Best Popular Movie category, which was also something we all saw through as just being a way to appeal to the masses. But other than that, I actually think when you look at the Oscars, I think there are some important accomplishments for comic book movies. And yeah, a lot of people have brought up so many films this year are predominantly made with black casts, black production crews, and talking about aspects of Black America. BlacKkKlansman in particular, is my vote to win, although my opinion means nothing to the Academy. But I think above all else, Into the Spiderverse being nominated for Best Animated Picture, I think speaks volumes. Now, obviously, I've said this a few times, my big gripe with last year's Oscars was the fact that Boss Baby and Ferdinand got Best Animated Picture nods over many other films that deserved it more. Now, so seeing that they actually did care, and they could have just been like, oh, stupid superhero movie, stupid Spider-Man, this isn't even the main Spider-Man, this is backup Spider-Man. Like, they could have ignored this, and under most circumstances they would, but they did recognize Into the Spider-Verse as a fantastic film. In my opinion, Into the Spider-Verse deserves Best Picture over Black Panther. Hell, it probably deserves it better than half the other crap on the list. I didn't even look besides it and BlacKkKlansman. Honestly, but the fact that Into the Spider-Verse got recognized, I think, is fantastic, and it won the, I believe it was the Golden Globe, or the Emmy, or who cares? It won a big award, and it's continuing to get recognized, which tells Sony, we want this, not more Venom, shitheads, which is great. Will it win Best Animated Picture? Unfortunately, Best Animated Picture sort of is what I was saying with Black Panther and Inception before. It's a category that exists to throw a bone to people who care about animation, and also so that way the egos of those who only care about live-action Hollywood movies that pander to them don't have to acknowledge animation as an art form, which they don't, hence why Beauty and the Beast is infamously known in Hollywood as a Best Picture nomination. So, yeah, those are my thoughts there. Into the Spider-Verse is the one I'm praying for. Will I watch the Oscars this year? Probably not. Didn't watch it last year. I'm still pretty pissed off about Boss Baby and Ferdinand. Anyways, on to Yugioh Vrains. So, this week, they kind of did something interesting. And that was, they actually sort of repeated the logic of last week's episode, but with everything reversed. And that is that the first one up, who will most likely lose to a major character, i.e. Specter is not beating Lightning. Like, let's be real here, people. It's the same thing. It is the weakest of the villains, or in this case, the weakest of the heroes versus the weakest of the villains, and you have sort of this interesting dynamic going into it, where last week it was someone fighting to believe he's important when he's ultimately not. Here it's actually somebody who is ultimately trying to turn the tables on the villain, whereas Lightning is trying to manipulate Specter and defeat Specter in order to mess with everyone else. Specter is actually using his own manipulative tricks on Lightning, which I quite appreciated, because I don't like Specter. I did not like him in the last season, and ironically, someone actually brought this up in the comment section last week. When I said that, it was a mistake how he was used last season, I forget the exact way I phrased it. But they brought up how, well, Specter winning against Aoi actually makes sense. Specter's a lost incident victim, he's an important villain, all this good stuff. That is a very good point. However, where I disagree with you is that Specter had no build-up before that. He was just kind of there. He was Revolver's butler. That's basically what he looks like. He doesn't even look like the right age compared to the other Lost Incident victims. This guy looks like he's in his late 20s. Like, he doesn't look right for the part at all. And the thing is, he comes in basically at the last minute after they've built up all three of these characters working together. More importantly, he goes after the one who got her own 2 to 3 episode arc on why she should team up with everyone and getting the courage to do it, and then wipes her out unsanctimoniously without even giving her a final shot after they kind of built a lot of the emotion around her. This is problematic, but it's also just the fact that they kind of spoiled the reveal of the first major Lost Incident victim who would play a role in the story. Up until this point, we had only met 2 of them. We met Yusaku, who obviously we all have some very strong opinions on, but above all else, he's our protagonist, so that's fine. And then we meet, why am I blanking on names tonight? The next guy's brother. I don't know why I'm tired tonight. But we meet the brother, but the brother doesn't have a role in the story. He's a Kusanagi, Kusanagi's brother. He doesn't have a role in the story. He's just sort of there. Like, he's just sort of in a mental home, like, unresponsive, and Kusanagi is the point of view character for that aspect of the story. So therefore, Specter is our first Lost Incident victim we're really meeting, and you're gonna waste that on a sidekick. You're gonna waste it on a henchman. You only get 6 of these! That was my problem above all else. Also, the whole sort of tree root hentai tentacle rape bullshit was very problematic, but what I liked about how he was used here, and the fact that the next Lost Incident victim is basically just Yusaku's fuckboy, and then the next 2 consist of someone who got Princess Diana'd, and then someone who's in a coma thanks to plot disease-itis, I think sort of shows they don't really know what to do with the Lost Incident victims. It honestly wouldn't shock me if it turned out Specter was not originally a Lost Incident victim, but they had no clue what to do with the Lost Incident victim, so they just kind of made him one retroactively. But what I liked about this whole thing was that Specter was being manipulative. He was putting on a show. He was messing with Lightning's head, and it's working. Lightning seems genuinely annoyed by the fact that Specter isn't succumbing to his taunts. He's not falling for his tricks. He's not doing anything anyone else does. Specter is actually deducing what Lightning is doing and then throwing it back at him. This is, as we see, is having a very visual reaction in Lightning that we haven't seen before. Lightning doesn't get frustrated. Lightning doesn't get angry. Lightning has all the answers. But here's someone who can also figure out all the answers, and this affects Lightning's understanding of how he rationalizes humans and also his own personal sense of vanity. So seeing that attack, I think, adds a bit to Lightning's character. Also, it's just sort of this interesting idea of neither person in this duel is a good guy. Specter is a lunatic, and the way he behaves in the duel suits himself. Remember, Revolver's strategy for getting rid of the Judgment Arrows was just negate it. It's very Revolver. It's very much just plow everything in my way. I'm going to do what I want. But no, Specter is supposed to be manipulative. He's supposed to be controlling. So what does he do? He manipulates and takes control of the opponent's play. I thought it was a really interesting way to go about it, and I thought it's good use of a character who seems like he was very much haphazardly handled. So yeah, that's it. Not a ton to talk about with this episode. The Oscar thing actually had me more interested. The only other thing that was sort of cool, I like seeing Extra Link again. I like that they didn't have to overly explain it, as they often do a lot of times when they bring these things back after not showing up for a good amount of time. They kind of expected us all to know what an Extra Link is, and I like that it was done in a unique way that felt different from Revolver's and unique to Lightning. So that was really cool. It's also why we can't get Judgment arrows in real life. And trust me, I'm waiting for the day they make a generic Link 2 with arrows pointing upper left, upper right. You know it's coming. But yeah, all in all, I like this episode. I thought it was interesting. I think we'll have more to talk about next week when Specter either deduces his secret or pushes his buttons more. I'm actually very interested in that. But tell me what you thought about all this below. The Oscars, if you even care about the Oscars. A lot of people don't. Tell me that below. And as for the TCG question of the week. So this past week was the debut of the Pro Play Games tournament series. It was bogged down by those of us in the Northeast paranoid about a blizzard, but it seems like it still had a lot of interest and a lot of excitement for it. What I want to know is, do you want more tournament styles like PPG? These sort of private groups starting up, forming their own circuit series, or would you rather everything be centered around Konami and their own sort of, and they just sort of fix up the issues with their own tournament structure? Because I actually do know a lot of people who think that Konami should be the ones in control of their product and maintaining their game, especially considering the sort of, let's go with controversial and polarizing opinions people have on ARG. But tell me all that below, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me for whatever Lightning's secret is. It's probably he's a brony.